What's going on, guys? JP back at you once again, bringing you guys day number 19 in my 11th annual 31 Days of Horror. You got to finish up the 11th annual before we can move on to the 12th annual. But anyway, the film that I'm going to be reviewing today is actually one that is a pretty big blind spot for me. It's a film that I had never seen in its entirety. I've seen clips, I've seen people review it, I've seen people talk about it. I've seen it featured in other movies, on the TV or in the background or whatever. And that film is 1922's Nosferatu. And it is directed by F.W. Murnau from the year 1922. Over 100 years old this film is. This release here is from Kino Lorber under the Kino Classics umbrella. It is a German film. It also runs 95 minutes, which I thought was a tad bit long for a silent film. But it doesn't overstay its welcome, honestly. So Nosferatu, I mean, it's such an important film in horror history. It's crazy to think. And I did watch the Joe Bob Briggs Last Drive-In clips with this film. Because I know he showed it last summer on the Last Drive-In, and I was curious what he had to say about it. But one thing that he mentions is that there was a lawsuit when this film originally was released because of the fact that it's sort of based on Bram Stoker's Dracula, and I believe it was either Bram Stoker's wife or somebody in his sort of estate sued F.W. Murnau and whoever made this movie, and actually won, and apparently the film was to be destroyed. But there were prints that were not, and now I believe this film is in the public domain. But this version here, I believe, I know Joe Bob talked about like different versions and sort of like different like speeds, because these films are made on like these hand crank cameras and the frames per second and stuff like that, and that's why a lot of films of this time are very like choppy at times and stuff. Very fascinating Last Drive-In episode, I will say that. But Nosferatu, the film itself, follows a young dude and his wife. His boss basically tells him there's this Count Orlok dude who wants to buy a house in, I guess, Germany, but he lives in Transylvania, and they need to go pick him up or bring him here to sell this house. So this dude here, forget his name, but he goes to find Count Orlok, and he goes to his castle, and then Count Orlok's weird as hell. Count Orlok, Nosferatu, Max Schreck plays Count Orlok, and this performance, I mean, is he not one of the just most incredible looking horror performances of all time? I mean, is he not? Like, look at this dude. Look, that is so damn scary. And especially when you like look at the film itself, and the colors are sort of like, there's sometimes they're green, sometimes they're yellow, and this sort of just this present, he just has a presence to him that, and I understand why people were like, dude, I think this guy was an actual damn vampire, homie, because this guy looks just, it doesn't look like makeup, bro. This looks like some dude just looks like this. Max Schreck, phenomenal performance as Nosferatu, and even this style of vampire. I recently watched The Last Voyage of Demeter, which is like that new vampire Dracula film on a boat that definitely takes inspiration from the Dracula novel and Nosferatu, just the look of the vampire. I watched that and it was like, you know what, I've never seen the original Nosferatu like all the way through. I should totally watch that. It made me want to finally get around to checking this one out. And so that's why I decided to watch this. But he goes to the castle and he meets Count Orlok, and he ends up cutting his finger, and the Count wants to lick his blood and stuff, freaks him out. And it's funny, Joe Bob says that all the lead male does is like cower the entire time. And it's kind of funny and kind of true. But anyway, the next day or a day after or something, you know, he has these mosquito bites on his neck and stuff, and he looks out the window and he sees Count Orlok picking up a coffin and sticking it on a carriage and then getting inside it and the carriage taking off, and I instantly thought of Phantasm, and I wonder if the tall man and that whole thing with the coffin was inspired by Nosferatu, which I don't know if I might have heard somebody make that comparison before, but I'm not sure. I can't remember. Anyway, he ends up on a Nosferatu, Count Orlok ends up on a boat. All the people die. He shows up in, I don't know if it's England or Germany or where the hell it is, but you know, then people start dying in the town. They think it's a plague, which is cool because, you know, plagues at the time and stuff. I like that aspect of it. And then you have the lead male's wife, who's really sort of like the real hero of the film. But yeah, so that's Nosferatu. I mean, dude, the visuals in this film are so incredible. Even the whole time I'm watching this, I'm just in like amazement. I'm like, that cat's was born 100 years ago. That stoop was made like over 100 years ago, and like these people are standing on this boat 100 years ago. Like, I just kept thinking 100 years ago, 100 years ago. And then you start thinking about it and you're like, 100 years ago really isn't even like that long in the grand scheme of things. And it's like, it's crazy that like we're alive at a time where we can pretty much digest all of film history, right? Like 100 years from now, it's going to be much harder to digest all of film history. I mean, you're not going to digest all of it, but you get what I'm saying. Like the main stuff, and it's really cool. Being a film fan and watching these silent films, it really puts things in perspective. And you also sort of just you look at these films and you're like, this is so incredible, like what they actually did 100 years ago before any like special effects and you know, films today. You look at like the newest Transformers or something, and it's like so different. But the art style and just the look of this film is incredible. Joe Bob said that Max Schreck is only in the film for like 9 minutes, and it reminds you of like, you know, Freddy, who was only in the film for whatever 9 minutes, or Pinhead and the Cenobites, who were only in the film for 8 minutes, and it's like, it really is like less is more sometimes, you know what I mean? Because you don't realize that they're only in it for 9 minutes. It feels like every time they're in it, it lasts forever because it's terrifying. And I could totally see like catching this late at night on TV when I was like a kid, and it just scaring the hell out of me because it really is a horror film. It's a scary movie. I like that about it. But it's just also fascinating to see a film that's 100 years old, and just watching each scene, each individual scene, and how it's set up, how it's shot, like Orlok rising out of the coffin. I mean, that is classic stuff right there. I will say, I don't think I could watch silent films like over and over again, like I couldn't watch like a bunch of these in a day or something, because I really hate title cards. Like, I can't, I really don't like them. I love the look of silent films. The music's good. I mean, there's like sort of this like overacting, like theater acting that's going on that is like kind of funny at times. There's actually the guy's boss. He has like these thick like eyebrows and this zany hair and stuff, and he's kind of a nutcase in the film, just like his acting style. But like the title card thing is just, I just don't like it very much. But I appreciate the type of, I appreciate them as what they are. But yeah, I mean, Nosferatu, how do you really rate Nosferatu? I mean, 9 out of 10, I guess. But yeah, I'm glad I finally got to see this. It was a very cool experience, and it's definitely, this is like the perfect film to just pop in on Halloween night and put on in the background. It's perfect. So, with that said, guys, we'll see you next time with another review. Thank you for watching. Peace.